A girl has been trying to win over my boyfriend for 7 years, and he has always known about it, despising her to the core. But when she was about to be erased after her failed attempt, my boyfriend went mad trying to save her, leaving me behind at our engagement party. He said, "That girl has loved me for 7 years. She shouldn't end up like that." What he didn't know was that the moment he stepped out of the engagement party, my own quest also failed, and the punishment was to forget him. I stood on the engagement party stage, wearing a pristine white dress, my smile stiff as I waited for my fiancé Jinnian. Below were relatives and friends from both families. The cheerful chatter had long faded, replaced by confusion and whispered conversations. Because Jinnian still hadn't come up. He was clearly backstage, already dressed in his suit, with the engagement ring ready. Yet he refused to step onto the stage. The host had urged him 3 times, only to be sent back each time. "Miss Joe, Mr. Liu is on a video call with someone and looks really upset. I don't dare disturb him again," the host whispered awkwardly beside me. I clenched and released my fingers, staying silent. Jinnian was probably video calling her. Her name is Li Xiaoxiao. Jinnian and I grew up together. We played, laughed, and studied side by side, attending the same schools from kindergarten through university. Everyone thought we were a match made in heaven, and all our relatives and friends were certain we'd walk down the aisle. Jinnian had even sworn he'd marry no one but me. Aside from me, he showed no interest in any other girl, including his junior, Li Xiaoxiao. Li Xiaoxiao entered our lives 7 years ago, during our sophomore year, while she was a freshman. She came from a poor mountain village, dressed plainly and wore no makeup, yet she didn't seem rustic. Her eyes were bright, shining like stars in the night sky. It was with those bright eyes that she stared at Jinnian, all because he had stood up for her when a supermarket owner accused her of stealing. But Jinnian didn't like her. He didn't like the breakfast she brought him every day, the water she handed him after basketball games, the umbrella she held over him in the rain, or the way she'd say pitifully that she was just grateful and had no other intentions. She had no other intentions for 7 years. Even after graduation, she worked near our company just to run into Jinnian and catch a glimpse of him. How persistent. But Jinnian was mine. At least, he was mine before he stepped onto that stage. Jinnian finally walked onto the stage. His suit and tie were slightly disheveled, his hair messy. His expression was anxious and conflicted, his lips tightly pressed together. The relatives and friends below finally relaxed, clapping and cheering to lighten the mood. The host grabbed the microphone, ready to begin. But Jinnian ignored everything. He walked up to me, took my hand, and said hoarsely, "Sui, I'm sorry, but I have to leave for a bit. Can we postpone the engagement party for a month?" "Why?" I looked at him, feeling my eyes weren't as bright as Li Xiaojia's and able to tell whether Jinnian still loved me or not. Jinnian fell silent, his gaze flickering before he mumbled, "Today's not a good day. Let's pick another date next month." "Did something happen to Li Xiaoxiao?" I went straight to the point. Jinnian stiffened, his expression shifting as he forced a strained smile. "Li Xiaoxiao. She's in the hospital. Late-stage cancer. The doctors say she probably only has a month left. I've already sent someone to verify it's true." No wonder he'd taken so long. He'd sent someone to the hospital to check. "It seems what she said before was true. If she fails to win you, she'd be punished," I said, tilting my head. This wasn't a secret. Li Xiaoxiao had told Jinnian long ago that she had to win him over, or she would die. In this lifetime, she could love no one but Jinnian. Yeah, she's being severely punished. She'll die in the agony of cancer. Jinnian sighed, his lips pressing together again. He had always despised Li Xiaoxiao. After all, 7 years of pestering had worn down his patience. He had even lost his temper and hit her once. Li Xiaoxiao had curled up on the ground, crying and apologizing. But she said she loved Jinnian and couldn't control herself. Psycho! That was Jinnian's usual opinion of her. But now, it seemed his opinion had changed. The engagement won't take much time. Maybe we could finish the ceremony and then visit Li Xiaoxiao together, I suggested. A reasonable suggestion. Jinnian's expression shifted again. He lowered his eyes to look at his watch, urgency in his voice. Let's go see her first. I'll go alone. You rest, Sui. He turned to leave. I felt the tears I'd been holding back for so long were about to fall, so I lowered my head to look at my dress. My white gown wasn't a wedding dress, but it was just as beautiful. Yet why did it seem as bleak as snow? Let's finish the engagement first. It won't take long, I said again, my voice trembling. Jinnian turned back and took a deep breath. Sui, I don't want to lie to you. Li Xiao said that if I get engaged to you, her quest will officially fail, and she'd die immediately. So, can we wait a little longer? Jinnian spoke softly. No matter how annoying she is, she's loved me for 7 years. She shouldn't end up like that. I smiled bitterly. So, Li Xiao's quest hadn't failed yet. She was still trying to salvage it. I had so much to say, that looking at Jinnian's anxious and uneasy expression, I couldn't utter a single word. He truly wanted to fly to Li Xiao's side immediately, unwilling to stay even a second longer, not even for our engagement party. So I stood there silently, tears finally falling. Jinnian patted my head and strode away. Everyone was stunned. Relatives below called out loudly to Jinnian, but he ignored them and headed straight for the exit. I lifted my head, my vision blurring with tears. In that blur, only Jinnian's receding figure remained. The moment he stepped through the door, I felt the world spin, a sharp pain piercing my head, and I collapsed to the ground. Host's quest failed. All memories of Jinnian will now be erased. I woke up in the hospital to see my parents' worried faces. The room was also filled with relatives, as well as our kind neighbors, Uncle Lu and Aunt Wang. Seeing me awake, my parents cried tears of joy, finally relieved. Uncle Lu gritted his teeth. Chisui, you're finally awake. It's all my son's fault. He's gone mad. I'm so angry I could break his legs. That's right, Chisui. Please don't take it to heart. We'll definitely teach Jinnian a proper lesson. He's utterly useless. Aunt Wang's eyes were red as she repeatedly promised to discipline Jinnian. I felt dazed, my mind blank. Jinni and ... who was that? Didn't Uncle Lu and Aunt Wang only have a daughter? Since when did they have a son? Seeing me confused, my parents grew nervous again, touching my forehead and hands. My mother shed tears, both aggrieved and angry. Look what Jinnian has done to my daughter. After all these years of love, he just ran off during the engagement party. Please don't blame us in-laws. I've already told Lu Zi to find him. We must get to the bottom of this. Our family will give you a proper explanation. Uncle Lu apologized profusely. I blinked and asked hesitantly, Who is Jinnian? Huh? The relatives in the room were stunned. My mother was horrified, touching my head again and calling for the doctor. The doctor came and I underwent another detailed examination. The results showed nothing abnormal. I was perfectly healthy and could be discharged any time. Except I couldn't remember how I ended up in the hospital. It seemed I'd forgotten quite a bit. Finally, the doctor suggested I stay for observation for 3 days. If nothing unusual happened, I could be discharged. I stayed for observation for 3 days. My parents, Uncle Lu and Aunt Wang, refused to leave. They ate and slept in the hospital, taking turns resting and caring for me. I felt embarrassed. It was fine with my own parents, but Uncle Lu and Aunt Wang were too kind. It felt awkward. I urged them to go home, insisting I was fine. Uncle Lu and Aunt Wang exchanged glances, their expressions strange. Chisui, have you really forgotten Jinnian? You're our daughter-in-law. Taking care of you is only right, Aunt Wang said, displeased with my distance. I couldn't help but laugh. Who exactly is Jinnian? Am I supposed to be his wife? Yes, you two were about to get engaged, but something unexpected happened. Uncle Lu seized the chance to tell me about Jinnian and me. After explaining the engagement party, he went on about our childhood. How we walked dogs, played with cats, climbed mountains, and scaled trees together. When you two were 7, our families went to the beach together. You were swept away by the waves, and without a second thought, Jinnian jumped in to hold you. If not for the lifeguards, you both would have... As he spoke, Uncle Lu watched my face, hoping I'd remember. I forced a dry smile. I didn't remember any of it, not a single bit. Uncle Lu grew anxious. Aunt Wang sighed. Maybe you're so angry you've temporarily forgotten. Jisui, just focus on recovering. Don't be too upset. But I wasn't upset. I didn't even know Lu Jinnian. What was there to be upset about? On the second day of my hospital stay, the weather was beautiful and I was in a good mood, scrolling through my phone while eating pastries. Outside the door, Uncle Lu was on the phone. His voice loud. You brat! Jisui is in the hospital, and you won't even come see her. I'll beat you to death. You can't get away. Even if you have to crawl, you better get here. Hey. Clearly, the other person had hung up. Uncle Lu called again, only to find the phone turned off. Beside the bed, my mother shook her head. Since yesterday, Uncle Lu and Aunt Wang have been calling. They've made dozens of calls and Lu Jinnian only answered one today. My mother was furious, utterly disappointed in Lu Jinnian. I shrugged indifferently, continuing to scroll through my phone and eat my pastries. In the afternoon, Lu Ziai arrived. She was Uncle Lu's daughter and my childhood playmate. We were very close. As soon as she arrived, she checked on me. Seeing that I looked healthy and composed, she sighed in relief. Sis, don't worry. I've already given my brother an earful. He's such an idiot, I'm so mad at him. Lu Ziai cursed. She was always blunt, but she usually didn't swear in front of elders. She must have been really furious. Uncle Lu quickly asked what had happened. After drinking some water, Lu Ziai explained. It's that Li Xiaoxiao again. She's always like my brother, right? She once stood outside our house for a whole day and night, refusing to leave even in the rain. ... She has cancer and doesn't have long to live. She wants my brother to accompany her in her final days, and he agreed. Right now, he's already taken her to a seaside villa so she can face the sea and feel the spring blossoms every day. Lu Zi grew angrier as she spoke, slamming the table. I went to the seaside villa and saw my brother pushing Li Xiaoxiao on a swing. She looked so happy it made me furious. Lu Ziai had clearly learned everything. She'd confronted Lu Jinnian directly. My parents' faces turned pale with anger, almost cursing out loud. Uncle Lu and Aunt Wang were equally furious. Aunt Wang nearly fainted from rage. Uncle Lu gritted his teeth, seething. Lu Jinnian, you damned fool! After cursing, he quickly apologized to my parents and reassured me. Jisui, I'll go catch Lu Jinnian myself and drag him back to Neil and apologize to you. Aunt Wang agreed, urging Uncle Lu to go get Lu Jinnian immediately. I blinked, continued eating my pastries, looking utterly clueless. Lu Ziai was confused and cautiously asked me, Sis, are you okay? I'm fine. What could possibly be wrong with me? Is scrolling through my phone not fun enough? Or are the pastries not tasty enough? Nah, I'm good. This is actually pretty amusing, haha. I genuinely found Lu Jinnian's drama hilarious, so cliché and over the top. Everyone exchanged confused glances. My parents were both angry and worried, fearing I'd lost my mind. So they insisted the hospital run more tests on me. The results still came back normal, but no one was convinced that I was. Uncle Lu didn't hesitate for a second. He stormed off to hunt someone down. On the third day, he dragged Lu Jinnian back to the hospital. My parents, Aunt Wang and Lu Ziai were all there. The first thing Lu Jinnian did when he walked into the ward was look at me, his face etched with guilt and concern. Sui, are you feeling okay? I've wanted to come see you so badly, but Li Xiaoxiao just got discharged. She's really weak. I had to take care of her first. Lu Jinnian sat down beside me to apologize. I stared at him blankly. To be honest, this stranger was drop-dead gorgeous. Standing at 1.88 meters tall, he had a tall, straight and elegant figure. Paired with his high nose bridge and big eyes, he was impossible to call unattractive. Uncle Lu, Aunt Wang, I commented casually. When did you two get another son? He's quite the looker, I have to say. Lu Jinnian froze, his brows furrowing as he reached out to take my hand. Sui, it's me, Jinnian. We grew up together. Don't say things to hurt me, ... Before he could finish, I instinctively pulled my hand away, frowning in displeasure. Who even are you? How dare you touch me without permission? Lu Jinnian froze again. then hung his head with a bitter laugh. Dad said you lost your memory. But I know you're pretending. You hate me, don't you? I'm sorry, Sui. It's all my fault. Just listen to me explain. He tried to take my hand a second time. My frown deepened, and I swatted his hand away sharply. What do you think you're doing? Don't touch me. Jinnian hadn't expected such a fierce reaction. For me to fling his hand away like that. He looked miserable and embarrassed, hanging his head and clutching it as his voice turned hoarse. I won't touch you again. I know I hurt you deeply. But Li Xiao is dying. You know that she's going to die. She's had such a hard life. A terrible family. A miserable existence. She's never had a single happy day. Jinnian lifted his head, his eyes pleading. She wasted 7 years of her youth on me. Now she's dying. And I can't just stand by and watch her suffer. Is one person's life really less important than our engagement party? He was practically accusing me. My parents were livid. Uncle Lu slammed his palm down on Jinnian's head. Shut your mouth. This isn't about the engagement party. Who cares about this Li Xiao or Cici? Dad, you can't compare them like that. Jinnian shot back. Xiao has cancer. She sacrificed everything for me. I felt a surge of irritation. I couldn't care less about the engagement party, or who was more important. I was just grossed out by the fact that this random guy had touched me twice. Stop making a scene, I sighed, dismissing him. I don't want to see you. Please leave. My parents echoed my words, telling him to get out immediately. Jinnian pressed his lips into a thin line and slowly stood up. Sui, I just wish you'd be a little more reasonable. Xiao has been through so much pain. The happier we are, the more she suffers. You can keep pretending to have amnesia. You can hate me. I'll take it. But please show Xiao a little kindness and understanding. I listened to him, completely dumbfounded. What in the world was he rambling about? Sorry, but I really don't know who you are, I said flatly. As for Li Xiao, she was a junior of mine in college, wasn't she? Yeah, she did have a tough life. You should take good care of her. Love her well. Wish you two happiness. I meant every word of that sincere wish for them to stay together forever and have kids soon. Jinnian sighed again. I'll come back when you're done being stubborn. He turned and walked away, ignoring Lu Ziai's shouts and Uncle Lu and Aunt Wang's attempts to stop him. That night, a violent storm suddenly broke out. I jolted awake in the middle of the night, my heart pounding with fear. I've been afraid of thunder ever since I was little, and I haven't grown a single ounce of courage even now that I'm an adult. My parents and Uncle and Aunt Lu weren't around. They must have been resting in a companion room. I didn't want to wake them, so I curled up under the covers, trembling like a leaf. But then Mom came in. She rushed over and took my hand. Don't be scared, Suzui. Mom's here. I let out a long breath of relief. And suddenly the howling wind and crushing thunder outside didn't seem so terrifying anymore. Mom brushed my forehead, sighing softly. I remember when you were little, every time it thundered, Jinnian would run over to see you in the middle of the night with an umbrella. He knew you were afraid. Did he? I asked, nonchalant. He did, Mom nodded. He was always so worried about you. I still remember one time, the thunder was so loud you burst into tears. Jinnian ran all the way to our door barefoot, yelling for you, telling you not to be scared. He caught a terrible fever from being out in the rain, and was sick for days. Really. I felt absolutely nothing. I chuckled and said, that just sounds like he was being silly. Mum hesitated for a moment, then asked carefully, you really don't remember Jinnian at all? So she suspected I was pretending too, since all my test results were normal. Mum, I don't know Jinnian, I said firmly, making my annoyance clear. I don't like him either. My first impression of him is terrible. Can we please not talk about him anymore? Mum looked thoughtful, then gently patted me, humming a lullaby to soothe me back to sleep. After I was discharged from the hospital, we took Uncle Lu's car to his villa. The housekeeper had already prepared lunch, and quite a few of the Lu family's relatives had come over. It was a celebration for my recovery. Cici, Uncle Lu said, his voice heavy with guilt. Today is the day you leave the hospital. We're here to congratulate you. but also to apologize. Please don't blame us. We failed to raise our son properly. I quickly waved my hand, dismissing his apology. Uncle Lou had been taking care of me at the hospital, non-stop these past few days. He de-worked himself ragged. The meal was a lively affair, with every relative taking turns saying nice things, hoping I'd forgive Lou Jinnian. They were afraid I'd call off the engagement. Our two families had extremely close business ties, and our villas were right next to each other. We saw each other every day. A falling out would make things awkward for everyone. But the truth was, I really didn't know who this Lou Jinnian guy was. Uncles and aunts, I said, reassuring them. You've all been good friends with my parents for years. No matter what happens between Lou Jinnian and me, it won't affect our family's relationship. You have my word. My words put everyone at ease. Aunt Wang seized the opportunity to speak up. Cece, once Jinnian comes to his senses, we'll throw you a grand engagement ceremony. We'll make sure you don't suffer a single bit of grievance. As soon as she finished speaking, the housekeeper rushed in to report that young Master Lou was back. Everyone's eyes darted to the door in unison. Uncle Lou's face lit up with joy. He stood up and walked over saying, I gave that boy a piece of my mind. Looks like he's finally realized his mistake and come to apologize. But his expression quickly turned to fury. Because Lou Jinnian wasn't alone, Li Xiaoxiao was with him. Li Xiaoxiao looked extremely frail, dressed in a white coat and wearing a thick hat. She clung weakly to Lou Jinnian's arm, standing timidly at the doorway. Everyone froze in shock. Uncle Lou exploded with rage. Lou Jinnian, have you lost your mind? How dare you bring her here? Li Xiaoxiao jumped in fright, quickly lowering her head and twisting the hem of her clothes nervously. Lou Jinnian rushed to explain. Dad, don't scare Xiao. She was terrified by the thunder last night. She refused to stay at the beach house anymore. That's why I brought her here. I didn't know everyone was having lunch at home. You're usually at work. Shut up. Uncle Lou roared, beside himself with anger. You're completely out of your mind. Get out of here right now. Take this Li Xiaoxiao and get out. Li Xiaoxiao grew even more anxious, tears welling up in her eyes as she began to sob softly. I was dying of curiosity. I wanted to see what the female lead of this over-the-top drama looked like. I hadn't seen my college junior Li Haoxiao in years, so I was genuinely interested. I stood up and walked over, signaling for Uncle Lou to calm down. Lou Jinnian met my gaze, then quickly looked away, his face a mix of awkwardness and guilt. I paid him no mind, my eyes fixed on Li Xiaoxiao. She peeked up at me shyly, revealing a pale, delicate face and a pair of bright, glistening eyes. Her eyes were astonishingly vivid, brighter than the stars in the sky. Even though her face was deathly pale, those eyes alone made her look like a delicate, ethereal beauty. Back in college, she'd been plain and unassuming, always wearing old, shabby clothes, and she exuded a constant air of insecurity. Now, she was still just as insecure, but she looked even more fragile and pitiful, the kind of girl who made people want to protect her. Liao Xiao, I said with a smile. It's been years. Li Xiaoxiao froze, staring at me in confusion. Lou Jinnian stepped forward quickly. Sui Sui, it's all my fault. Don't blame Zhao Xiao. I'll take her away right now. He tried to pull Li Xiaoxiao toward the door. Look at her. She's so thin she could blow away in the wind, I said, stopping them. Why are you dragging her around like this? She should stay here. The environment is nice, the air is fresh, and there are private doctors on call any time. It's perfect for her to recover. I meant every word of my suggestion. Li Xiaoxiao froze again, looking stunned. Lou Jinnian didn't freeze, but he looked furious. It seemed my unexpected generosity was more than he could handle. He thought I was being sarcastic. Sui Sui, what exactly do you want? He snapped. I said I'd demarry you in a month. Are you really going to keep making a scene over this? Why are you using Zhao Xiao to take cheap shots at me? She doesn't have much time left. Can't you just let her be happy? Lou Jinnian's voice rose steadily with anger. I stared at him, completely bewildered. Why was he getting so worked up? I was genuinely concerned about my junior's health. How could a terminally ill cancer patient handle running around like this? First of all, I said, my voice cold and sharp, I'm not being sarcastic. Second of all, I won't be marrying you in a month, because I don't like you. And finally, I really truly don't know who you are. What's your tone when you're talking to me? I shot Lu Jinnian a warning glare. No one behind me said a word. Li Xiaoxiao was silent too. Lu Jinnian's face turned bright red with rage. He grabbed Li Xiaoxiao's hand and stormed into the villa. Fine, Zhou Sisi. You really know how to play games. Go on, keep pretending. I'll take your advice. Xiaoxiao should stay here to recover. This place is perfect for her. He spat the words out through gritted teeth, clearly determined to defy everyone. Uncle Lu shouted after him. Lu Jinnian, stop right there. Who gave you permission to bring a stranger into this house? Zhou Sisi did. Lu Jinnian yelled back without turning around. Lu Jinnian was furious, and so Li Xiaoxiao moved into the villa. All the relatives were seething with anger, indignant on my behalf. I couldn't have cared less. I just wanted to go home. Luckily, we lived in the same neighborhood. My villa was right next door. Once we got home, my parents started cursing Lu Jinnian, their hearts aching for the way I'd been wronged. But I didn't feel wronged at all. If anything, this whole situation was kind of entertaining. That night, the thunder and rain started up again. Summer rainstorms always came out of nowhere, and the thunder was especially loud that night. I curled up in bed, trembling with fear. I suddenly remembered what Mom had said. How Lu Jinnian used to come running to me every time it thundered, just to comfort me. But he definitely wouldn't be coming tonight. After all, his precious Li Xiaoqiao was afraid of thunder too. Just as the thought crossed my mind, the doorbell rang. It was barely audible over the roar of the storm, but my phone buzzed with a notification. Someone was visiting me in the middle of a thunderstorm. Mom went to answer the door, letting the visitor in. I pricked up my ears and I heard Lu Jinnian's voice, urgent and loud. Sui is afraid of thunder. Every time it storms, she's always looked for me all these years. She won't be able to sleep if I don't come. Susui's already asleep, Mom said, her voice cold and full of resentment. You should leave. Auntie, I know I was wrong, Lu Jinnian pleaded. I shouldn't have snapped at Sui earlier today. I love her so much, but... can I just go upstairs to see her? Please? No. Mum replied flatly, refusing to budge. Lu Jinnian fell silent for a moment, then sighed deeply. Then please tell Sui this for me. I know she hasn't forgotten me. I'll wait for her to forgive me. I'll wait a lifetime if I have to. How cringy. I shuddered, the goosebumps on my arms making me forget all about my fear of thunder. I turned on the light and groped my way to the kitchen for a glass of water. Glancing out the window, my eyes landed on the third floor of the Lu family's villa next door. A light was on in one of the rooms and a figure was standing by the window, staring rigidly in my direction. I jumped in fright. When I squinted to get a better look, I realized it was Li Xiaoxiao. She stood there like a ghost, probably waiting for Lu Jinnian to come back. I quickly slammed the curtains shut. I didn't want to have nightmares tonight. The storm cleared by morning, leaving the air fresh and fragrant with the scent of damp earth. Lu Zi came running over to see me. I was eating breakfast when she barged in, unceremoniously snatching my glass of milk and chugging it down. Sis, she groaned, making a face. I'm so grossed out. Now I have to live with Li Xiaoxiao under the same roof. Mum and Dad went back to the company, so it's just me, my brother, and her. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Our house was now occupied by just the three of them, her, Lu Jinnian, and Li Xiaoxiao. Mom and Dad are so mad they cut off my brother's credit cards. Lu Zi rambled on, rolling her eyes. But he's got tons of savings stashed away, and he's being such a stubborn jerk. He said if we kick Li Xiaoxiao out, he'll move out too and never come back. Lu Zi kept ranting, and I couldn't help but laugh. What a dramatic, lovesick fool her brother was. Sis, I can't take it anymore. I need to get out of the house, Lu Zi said suddenly, perking up. How about we go to our alma mater's anniversary celebration tomorrow? It will be fun. I blinked in surprise. Our alma mater's anniversary? Oh right, my university was holding its anniversary soon, and alumni like us were invited to come back and celebrate. Lu Zi was actually my junior too, though several years below me. Why the sudden interest in the anniversary? I asked her. Lu Zi shrugged, pouting playfully. The school called my brother this morning and invited him to give a speech at the celebration. Of course they did, he was one half of the Kinghua twin stars back in the day. Why didn't they invite me? I'm successful too, you know? I make 3,000 yuan a month. Lu Ziyi huffed, clearly joking. The 3,000 yuan salary was just a token payment for a no-show job. Her actual allowance was 10 times that amount. I laughed out loud, but a faint sense of confusion tugged at my mind. Kinghua twin stars. Was there really such a thing back then? I only remembered there being one star. A guy whose name was Jinnian, if I recall correctly. Jinnian was the brightest star Kinghua University had ever seen. During my college years, his legendary feats were everywhere, like taking 69 elective courses and ranking first in 31 of them. Like winning the first prize in the National College Physics Competition. Like earning Kinghua's first special award in the International College Mathematical Modeling Contest. He was so extraordinary that I remembered him vividly. Later, I heard he'd gone abroad, courted by many top overseas universities. Chances were, he'd settled down there for good by now. Sis, what are you zoning out for? Lu Ziyi bounced on her toes. Clearly excited. Are we going to the anniversary or not? It'll be fun to catch up with old friends. I wasn't really in the mood to go not when Jinnian was invited too. The last thing I wanted was to run into him. But then I thought about it. Why should I avoid him? He was practically a stranger to me. Just some random guy. Let's go. The two of us headed over, high-spirited. By the day the anniversary kicked off, we'd already eaten our way through half the campus food stalls. Full and satisfied, we hurried to the Kinghua auditorium. The auditorium was the venue for the celebration, spacious, bright, with rows of seats and a stage. Word had it that after the speeches, a dance party would be held right there, promising a lively time. Outside the auditorium, we spotted two posters. One was of Jinnian, the other of Jinnian. There wasn't much to say about Jinnian. He was undeniably accomplished, with an impressive resume and a powerful family background. He donated to the university every year, so it was only natural that he'd be invited to speak. As for Jinnian, he'd always been mysterious, with no news of him for years. From the poster, I finally learned that he was now a professor at Stanford University, and the youngest professor in the university's history. He's insane, Lu Ziyi gushed, pulling out her phone to snap photos. Stanford is a top-tier school. No wonder he was one of the twin stars. After he graduated, no one from our university has ever achieved such an honor again. She stared at the poster, starry-eyed. And he's still so handsome. Look at that tailored suit. That ascetic little mouth. I rolled my eyes at her obvious infatuation, then shook my head and dragged her inside the auditorium. The place was packed with alumni, many of whom I recognized. We exchanged polite small talk, and soon enough, the anniversary celebration began. The university president and other leaders took the stage to give speeches, followed by Jinnian. He looked ridiculously handsome that day, like a god descended to earth. The moment he stepped onto the stage, the crowd erupted in cheers, a testament to his popularity. My brother's definitely talented. Lu Ziyi clicked her tongue. He's just being an idiot right now. I didn't respond. As soon as Jinnian finished his speech, Jinnian walked onto the stage. His popularity was nowhere near Jinnian's. Not because he was any less capable, but because he'd always been aloof and solitary on campus. Though he was admired by all, he barely had any social circle to speak of. To everyone, he was like a distant, unattainable legend. I studied him carefully. His handsomeness was different from Jinnian's. Jinnian was like a radiant god come down to earth. Jinnian was like a mystical deer hidden in the mist. As the saying goes, you only see the deer when you venture deep into the forest. That line might as well have been written for him. When Jinnian finished his speech, the anniversary celebration reached its climax. The auditorium transformed into a party venue, where alumni, some youthful, some more mature, chatted and laughed, clinking glasses as they mingled. Lu Ziyi loved food, so she darted off to explore the snack tables. And soon enough, she disappeared into the crowd. I wandered around, looking for her, only to see Jinnian walking straight toward me. He was the center of attention wherever he went, with eyes following him like he had a halo above his head. I had to admit he was extremely accomplished. But I still didn't want to see him. My first impression of him had already sealed the deal. I simply couldn't work up any interest in him. Sui, you're here too. Jinnian called out to me. I nodded wordlessly. Jinnian smiled softly. Did you come to watch me? It's rare for me to get to speak on stage like this. How do you think I did? My good mood vanished instantly. Jinnian. I snapped at him without mercy. I'm just here to have fun. And I really don't know who you are. Can you please watch your words? The nearby alumni fell silent, exchanging confused glances. The smile dropped from Jinnian's face. He pressed his lips into a thin line, then grabbed my wrist and pulled me away forcefully. What are you doing? I struggled to break free, my wrist throbbing with pain. Jinnian said nothing, dragging me relentlessly to a quiet corner where few people were around. Joe Cece, he ground out, his voice thick with frustration and hurt. Is there truly not a single shred of love left between us? I know I wronged you, but do you really have to humiliate me like this? Over and over again? Yes. I shot back, my temper flaring. There's no love left because I don't even know you. How many times do I have to say it? I don't know who you are. Jinnian punched the wall beside him hard, his knuckles turning bright red. Fine. He exhaled sharply. Keep pretending. He turned on his heel and walked toward a girl standing nearby, flashing her a dazzling smile before inviting her to dance. The girl's face lit up with surprise and delight. She immediately took his hand, and the two of them walked onto the dance floor. Jinnian shot me a cold, deliberate glance. I stared after him, utterly speechless. Was he acting like a child? Joe Cece, it's been years. Care to dance? A soft, gentle voice sounded beside me. I turned around and there stood Ji Weiken, smiling at me. Ji Weiken was reserved and aloof, so his soft, warm voice felt strangely mismatched with his cool demeanor. Quite the contrast. I pointed to myself, surprised. You're talking to me? Yes, Joe Cece. Ji Weiken nodded, still smiling. I eyed him suspiciously. You know who I am. I was just a nobody back in Tingyue. Nobody is an overstatement. Ji Weiken chuckled. As the top student from the Department of Linguistics and Literature, you absolutely crushed me in that debate competition. I searched my memory and sure enough, I recalled that incident. I'd signed up for the debate on a whim, hoping to gain some experience competing against the school's top students. To my surprise, I'd exceeded all expectations and won first place. One of my opponents had been none other than Ji Weiken. At the time, though, I hadn't paid much attention to this legendary figure. To be honest, I hadn't paid attention to any of the boys back then. I remember the motion was, which is more important, love or life? Ji Weiken said, a nostalgic look in his eyes. Our team argued for love and yours argued for life. He smiled faintly. We were destined to lose that one. How could love ever be more important than life? I won purely by luck, I said modestly. Ji Weiken laughed out loud. You won by sheer talent. Back then, you were so fearless, like a tree growing on a cliff, bursting with unstoppable vitality. What an odd metaphor. Still, it was a compliment and I happily accepted it. So I took him up on his invitation. Why not dance? It would be boring otherwise. Ji Weiken took my hand and led me onto the dance floor. To my surprise, he was an excellent dancer. Instead of the aloof genius I'd imagined, he moved with the grace of a seasoned socialite. I teased him. Do you dance often? Ji Weiken nodded, lowering his eyes to gaze at me. There are a lot of balls abroad. You pick it up after a while. I felt his gaze burning on me, intense, completely at odds with his cool exterior. Yet, it wasn't an unpleasant stare. It was full of genuine appreciation and admiration. I felt a little embarrassed under his gaze, so I quickly changed the subject. It seems like you haven't been back to China in years. Why did you come this time? I'm about to get my green card, he replied. This might be the last time I come back. I nodded, swaying gently to the music with him. The melody in the ballroom was soft and melodious, and pairs of alumni laughed and chatted as they danced. I was thoroughly enjoying the moment. Suddenly, someone bumped into Ji Weiken hard, almost making him stumble. I frowned and looked over and saw Jinnian and his dance partner standing right next to us. Jinnian's face was ashen, his eyes blazing with fury. It was obvious he'd done it on purpose. Jiu Weiken steadied himself, his eyes landing on Jinnian. He didn't say a word, he just pulled me toward the other side of the dance floor. "Stop right there!" Jinnian couldn't hold back anymore, shouting after us. He abandoned his dance partner, striding over and grabbing my other wrist. Jiu Weiken's expression darkened. "Jinnian, what do you think you're doing?" "Jiu Weiken," Jinnian retorted, his voice even colder. "Don't you know Joe Cece is my fiancé? What the hell are you playing at?" Everyone around us turned to stare, their faces filled with shock. I wanted to sink into the floor from embarrassment. Were the two of them really fighting over me like this? Did they have no shame? Jinnian, are you out of your mind? I wrenched my wrist free of his grip, desperate to get away from this mess. Jiu Weiken had no desire to stay and be humiliated either. He pulled me along, trying to leave. "Jiu Weiken, I'm talking to you." Jinnian's anger flared even hotter. "I don't want to make a scene, but don't push your luck." Jinnian was clearly losing his composure. With his status and upbringing, he would never have spoken like that normally. Jiu Weiken came to a halt. His eyes turned sharp as blades, but his hand still held mine firmly, his voice dripping with menace. "Jinnian, do you want to be thrown out of here?" The words were the ultimate provocation. Jinnian lost his temper completely, throwing a fist straight at Jiu Weiken's face. Amid the gasps of the crowd, Jiu Weiken took the punch, his nose bleeding instantly, but he was no weakling. He retaliated at once. And just like that, the two famous twin stars of Qinghua were rolling around on the floor, brawling like a pair of street thugs. I stood there, stunned. What on earth was this feud about? I could understand Jinnian losing his mind, but Jiu Weiken, what was his deal? How could someone with his status fly off the handle like this? Getting into a fight at a school event? I didn't have time to ponder it. I rushed forward, trying to pull them apart, with several alumni hurrying over to help. Both men were bleeding by the time we separated them. Jiu Weiken had a broken nose, and Jinnian had a split lip. Sui, come with me." Jinnian pushed everyone aside, his tone brooking no refusal as he reached for me. Jiu Weiken said nothing. He just looked at me, his eyes unreadable. I could tell he wanted me to go with him. Without a moment's hesitation, I supported Jiu Weiken and started walking away. "We need to get you to the hospital now." Sui, you ... Jinnian froze, his face a mask of disbelief. I glanced back at him over my shoulder. His eyes were wide with shock, and a look of unspeakable fear crossed his face. It was as if he'd finally realized he might actually lose me for good. I took Jiu Weiken to the campus infirmary. After a simple treatment for his wound, he was fine. "Are you crazy?" I couldn't help but scold him. A professor at Stanford University, getting into a fistfight at a school dance. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? I still couldn't wrap my head around his behavior. Were all men this stupid? It was no different from getting into a drunken brawl. Jiu Weiken laughed, a silly, boyish sound. "Debater Joe Cece," he asked, echoing the way he'd spoken to me all those years ago. "In your opinion, what's more important? Life or love?" It was like we were back on the debate stage. Him standing there cool and composed, asking me that question again. I stared at him for a moment, then reached out and flicked his forehead lightly. "Have you lost your mind? I think love is more important," Jiu Weiken said seriously. "After all, without love, life is just an empty shell. A shell that's alive is no different from one that's dead." I was utterly speechless. I threw up my hands in a gesture of surrender. Fine, love is more important, you win this time." He laughed again. He seemed genuinely happy tonight, smiling brighter than I'd ever seen him smile before. But the sky was growing dark, and I needed to find Lucy I, that food-obsessed girl. I told him I should take my leave, saying we'd meet again if fate willed it. After all, he was going back abroad. If we were ever to see each other again, it would take nothing short of a miracle. Jiu Weiken opened his mouth, then closed it again, as if he had something he wanted to say, something stirring in his chest that he was holding back. "I'm off if there's nothing else," I said, waving goodbye as I turned toward the door. Jiu Weiken's lips moved. Just as I reached the doorway, he finally spoke up. Zhou Cixi, are you still going to marry Lu Jinnian? I paused mid-step, a sharp realization hitting me. He knew all about my complicated history with Lu Jinnian, even though I had no memory of any of it. You approached me on purpose, didn't you? I turned to face him, my voice cold. Who sent you? Li Xiaoxiao told me you and Lu Jinnian had broken up. Ji Huaikan admitted, no trace of pretense in his tone. That's why I came back. Li Xiaoxiao. In that instant, everything clicked into place. Ji Huaikan had been used by Li Xiaoxiao. That woman was far more scheming than I'd thought. First, she'd used her cancer diagnosis to win Lu Jinnian's sympathy, making him call off our engagement. But Lu Jinnian still loved me. He wasn't going to give up on me that easily. So Li Xiaoxiao had tricked Ji Huaikan into coming back to China, using him as a pawn to drive a wedge between us. If Ji Huaikan could win me over, Lu Jinnian would have no choice left. He would be stuck with Li Xiaoxiao and Li Xiaoxiao alone. You've been played, I said, shaking my head at him. Ji Huaikan let out a soft laugh. That's not the point. Haven't you realized yet? I'm confessing my feelings to you. I realized. I snorted. Looks like debater Zhou Cixi didn't. She just beat you in the debate all those years ago. She also stole your heart. Ji Huaikan was sitting on the infirmary bed, looking up at me. You haven't changed at all. You're still that cliffside tree standing tall and proud, swaying in the sun and wind, growing wild and free. Thanks for the compliment, I said dryly. Then ... can I be the blade of grass growing beside you? Ji Huaikan asked. Keep dreaming. I waved a hand dismissively, turning to leave. The rock's too hard. It'll be a tough place to put down roots. I found Lu Zi wandering along the campus path. She'd been looking for me too. Clearly worried. Sis, did you see that? My brother and Ji Huaikan got into a fight. I swear to God, I can't believe they're this shameless. Lu Zi groaned, completely exasperated. Fights happen, I shrugged, leading her back home. By the time we got back, it was already late, and neither of our parents were home. Lu Zi decided to crash at my place for the night. She was determined not to go back to the villa and share a roof with Li Xiaoxiao. Mom and Dad have given my brother an ultimatum. Lu Zi chattered away as she followed me into the house. If he doesn't kick Li Xiaoxiao out by tomorrow, they're going to force her out by any means necessary. Finally. About time they grew a backbone. Uncle Lu and Aunt Wang were usually such reasonable people. Giving Lu Jinnian an ultimatum was already the height of their toughness. I think your brother's been spoiled rotten, I agreed, joining in her rant. Your parents have always indulged him too much. Yeah, they definitely have, Lu Zi shot me a pointed look. But you're not entirely innocent either, sis. If you hadn't agreed to let Li Xiaoxiao move into our villa, Mom and Dad wouldn't have dragged their feet for so long. She had a point. It was me who'd suggested Li Xiao stay at the Lu family's villa. Fair enough. Once we got inside, we boiled some noodles for dinner. We'd just finished eating when the doorbell rang. Lu Zi went to answer it, and the moment she opened the door, she let out an indignant shout. Li Xiaoxiao? What are you doing here? I raised an eyebrow and walked over to take a look, and sure enough, it was Li Xiaoxiao standing at the door. She was wearing that same white coat and thick hat, her face pale and bloodless as ever. I'm here to see Zhou Cixi, Li Xiaoxiao said quietly. She doesn't want to see you. Get lost. Lu Zi snapped, trying to shut the door in her face. Just now, Jinnian called me. Li Xiao went on, ignoring Lu Zi's outburst. He told me to get ready, because he's going to marry me. Lu Zi's eyes widened in shock. What did you say? Say that again. Lu Jinnian is going to marry me, Li Xiaoxiao repeated, her voice calm and steady. Lu Zi flew into a rage, raising her hand to slap Li Xiaoxiao across the face. Lu Zi, go upstairs, I said sharply. I need to talk to Li Xiaoxiao alone. Sis, that woman is pure evil. You can't trust a word she says. Lu Zi protested, refusing to move. I shot her a warning glare. Reluctantly, she stormed upstairs. Now, it was just me and Li Xiaoxiao left in the living room. Li Xiaoxiao walked inside without being invited, her eyes sweeping over the living room before landing on the wine cabinet. The expensive bottles of red wine glowed elegantly under the lights. "I'd like a drink," Li Xiaoxiao said, pointing to the wine rack. I fetched a bottle of red wine and gestured for Li Xiaoqiao to sit down. She took a seat at the dining table, fixing me with those bright, glistening eyes of hers. I uncorked the wine and poured her a glass. She accepted it with both hands, staring blankly at the liquid swirling gently inside. I poured one for myself too, taking a small sip before asking, "What brings you here?" She didn't answer. Instead, she took a delicate sip of the wine, then let out a dreamy sigh, her voice soft as a whisper. "It's delicious. This is the cheapest one I have," I told her bluntly. She didn't mind. Pausing to choose her words carefully, she said, "Zhou Sisi, do you know what my dream was? It was to drink red wine as elegantly as you do." "Is that even considered a dream?" "Of course it is," she replied. "When I was 7, there was an outdoor movie screening in our village. I sat on a manure bucket, covered in dirt, watching a white-collar lady in the city on that blurry screen crossing her legs, sipping red wine, looking so noble and beautiful. That image has stayed with me my entire life." A faint smile tugged at Li Xiaoxiu's lips, and her pale face gained a hint of color. I crossed my legs casually. "And then what?" "And then I worked my fingers to the bone. I studied every spare moment after finishing my chores, grinding through one pencil after another until my fingers were raw and bleeding. I was the first college student in our village. My parents borrowed money to send me to Beijing for school. Their backs were bent from years of toiling in the rice fields. Their eyes stung by endless sweat. But finally, I had the chance to get an education." Tears welled up in Li Xiaoxiu's eyes. She took another sip of wine, swirling the glass slowly as she gazed into it. "I got into Qinghua University. I was going to make something of myself. I could have become a scientist, a businesswoman, a government official, or at the very least, a white-collar worker like that lady in the movie. Finally, I would be able to cross my legs and drink red wine elegant, beautiful, clean. I was going to let my parents drink it too. They deserved to taste it too." I listened in silence. Li Xiaoxiao had faced the same hardships that countless girls from impoverished mountain villages endured. "So you wanted to marry Lu Jinnian, to live a life where you could drink red wine every day?" "No, that's not it, Zhou Sisi. You don't understand me." Li Xiaoxiao let out a bitter laugh. "I had a bright future ahead of me. I had the chance, the ability to break the cycle of poverty that had trapped my family for generations. I could almost taste that glass of red wine. It was right within my grasp. But instead, I had to chase Lu Jinnian. Ha, how ridiculous is that? I wasted 7 years of my youth, 7 whole years, chasing a man." Li Xiaoxiao burst out laughing, the sound growing louder and more hysterical by the second. Tears streamed down her face like a sudden mountain flood, pouring forth uncontrollably. "Do you know what that feels like? Being forced to pour every last bit of myself into chasing a man. I couldn't focus on my studies anymore, couldn't move forward, couldn't finish my coursework. My entire life revolved around him. And if I dared to resist, I was threatened with death." Li Xiaoxiao slammed her wine glass down on the table, so hard that red wine splashed onto the back of her hand. She shook it off violently, fixing me with a piercing stare. I could barely afford to feed myself, but I still bought breakfast for Lu Jinnian every day. I hated basketball with a passion, but I cheered for him at every single game. I've always been frail. 1 drop of rain would give me a fever, but I held an umbrella for him, standing in the downpour for hours on end. Whenever I refused, a steel wire felt like it was tightening around my neck, choking the life out of me, leaving me no room to breathe. Li Xiaoxiao kept talking, pouring out all her pent-up grief and anger. Tears streamed down her cheeks, only to be roughly wiped away moments later. I stared at her in shock. "So you never liked Lu Jinnian, not even a little? A girl like me could never afford to dream of love," she said flatly. In my eyes, that glass of red wine was the only thing worth longing for. No woman in her right mind would waste 7 years of her youth on a man. So-called love isn't even worth 7 days of my time. Li Xiaoxiao's voice was firm, unyielding. I had no words to say. Li Xiaoxiao sniffled, letting out a long, shaky breath as if a huge weight had been lifted from her shoulders. "I lied to Jiu Weiken to get him to come back. I then known he's had a crush on you ever since that debate competition, the one where you argued about whether love or life is more important. I watched the whole thing. He didn't disappoint me. He drove Jinnian absolutely insane. And because of him, Jinnian has decided to get his revenge on you. He's going to marry me, just to make you regret it. A sneer curled at Li Xiaoxiu's lips. I know exactly what he's thinking. He's hoping you'll stop him from marrying me. Hoping you'll come crawling back to him. That's why I'm here to beg you to do me one last favor. Don't stop him. Let me end this chase once and for all. Everything finally clicked into place. Jinnian was trying to provoke me. To get a reaction out of me. His so-called decision to marry Li Xiaoxiu was a fit of rage. If I just showed the slightest hint of wanting him back, he'd drop Li Xiaoxiu in an instant. And then Li Xiaoxiu's 7-year-long chase would be for nothing. If Jinnian marries you, will it really be over? Will your cancer go away? I asked. Yes. Everything will be over, Li Xiaoxiu replied, her voice heavy with exhaustion. 7 years. I'm almost 30 now. I'm so tired. When will I finally get to drink that glass of red wine? With that, she pulled a bank card out of her pocket. I looked at her in confusion. She pushed the card across the table toward me. Her eyes filled with reluctance. This is all the money I've saved up by scrimping and saving 89,000 yuan. I wasted all my energy on Jinnian, so I couldn't save more than that. I'm giving this to you as payment. The PIN is 137,654. I refused to take Li Xiaoxiu's money, but she didn't take the card back either. She just drained her glass of wine and stumbled out of the house, her frail figure swaying with every step. Lucy I came rushing downstairs, asking anxiously, "Did that bitch leave? What did she want?" "Nothing important," I said, tucking the bank card away in a drawer first. Lucy I looked at me suspiciously. What was Li Xiao doing here? Is my brother really going to marry her? Yes, I confirmed. Jinnian was furious. He was playing his little mind game. The next day, he gathered all our relatives and close family friends for a dinner party, held right at my house. My parents thought Jinnian had finally come to his senses and was here to apologize. Uncle Lu and Aunt Wang were overjoyed too, sipping tea and smiling. It would be perfect if the two of you could reconcile. As for Li Xiaoxiu, we've been more than kind to her. We didn't even kick her out onto the streets, which is more than she deserves. Exactly. The other relatives chimed in, all kind-hearted souls. Once Jinnian and Suisu get engaged, we'll pay for Li Xiaoxiu's medical bills. We can't just let her suffer. But Jinnian said nothing. He just stared at me, his gaze intense. I ignored him. He let out a cold snort and finally spoke up, his voice cutting through the cheerful chatter. "Joe Cece, did you have fun dancing with Ji Weiken?" The entire room went dead silent. The relatives all stared at him in stunned disbelief. "Jinnian, what are you saying?" Uncle Lu snapped. "What am I saying?" Jinnian shot back, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Joe Cece is quite the charmer, isn't she? Managed to hook the most brilliant man to ever graduate from King Hua. Her own fiancé gets hurt, and she couldn't care less. But when some stranger gets hurt, she rushes him to the hospital. I bet she even cried over him, didn't she?" "Will you shut up?" I shot back, my patience wearing thin. "I told you I don't know you, and I don't have any feelings for you. Why the hell can't I dance with other men?" Jinnian flew into a rage, slamming his palm down on the table so hard that the dishes rattled. His eyes were bloodshot with fury. "You're still pretending to have amnesia, even now." "I'm not pretending. I truly don't know who you are. And for your information, I've always remembered Ji Weiken, and I've always admired him. He confessed his feelings for me, and I accepted." I dropped the bombshell. The room erupted in chaos. Every single relative looked like they'd just seen a ghost. Jinnian was so angry he laughed a harsh, bitter sound. He pointed at me, his voice trembling with rage. "I see. Fine. Perfect. Coincidentally, I was planning to marry Xiaoxiu anyway. So be it, we'll go our separate ways." With that, he turned on his heel and stormed out, not looking back once. I watched his retreating figure, knowing exactly what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to call out to him. So I did. "Wait." Jinnian froze instantly, but he didn't turn around. He let out a cold laugh. What now? I'm getting engaged to Jiu Weiken the day after tomorrow, I informed him calmly. Don't forget to bring a wedding gift. His entire body went rigid. His fists clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Then, without a word, he strode away, his back straight with anger and humiliation. Jinnian left just like that. The relatives were all left in a state of utter confusion and shock, none of them understanding what had just happened. I didn't bother explaining. I just left the house and headed straight for Tsinghua University. On the school's sports field, I spotted Ji Huaiken wandering aimlessly, just like he used to do back in our college days. He'd always been like this, preferring to take solitary walks in his free time. It was a habit that had once led countless girls to coincidentally bump into him on the field, hoping to strike up a conversation. I walked up behind him, and he didn't even notice my presence. I was about to tap him on the shoulder when his phone rang. He was receiving a video call. As soon as he answered, the faces of his parents popped up on the screen. Weiken, when are you coming back to America? His father asked, sounding anxious. You need to come home to get your green card. His mother chimed in, equally eager. Hurry back, darling. Mom found the perfect girl for you. She's half Chinese, half American, and absolutely gorgeous. Ji Weiken smiled gently. It's not urgent. I haven't been back to my alma mater in years. I just want to take my time and look around a bit more. Not urgent? What do you mean, not urgent? His mother exclaimed. You're almost 30. Hurry back so I can set you up with her. His father let out a thoughtful hum. Son, you're pushing 30 now, and you've never even dated anyone. You're not, like that, are you? I'm warning you, even though we live in America, we can't accept that kind of lifestyle. I had to clamp a hand over my mouth to keep from laughing out loud. So even the great Jiu Huaiken legendary genius, unattainable heartthrob of Tsinghua, got nagged about marriage by his parents. I hopped over to his side, startling him. Who? Jiu Weiken jumped, and broke into a smile when he saw it was me. Debater Joe Cece. Tell me what's scarier, ghosts or nosy parents? Okay, I surrender, I laughed, throwing my hands up in defeat. No more debating. I really had to hand it to him. Ji Weiken nodded, still smiling. I didn't waste any more time. I pulled out my phone and held it up, grinning. Let's take a selfie. Ji Weiken looked taken aback, in fact, that he tensed up, his cheeks growing tight. Why are you so nervous? I asked, amused. It's just a photo. I never thought debater Joe Cece would ever take the initiative to take a photo with me, he admitted, still flustered. But even when he was nervous, he was handsome, stunningly so. I snapped a quick picture of the two of us, then posted it to my WeChat moments on the spot. The caption was simple. Together at last. Ji Weiken stared at my phone screen in complete shock, his eyes wide with disbelief. Joe Cece, are you serious about this? He asked, his gaze locked on mine. I nodded firmly. After all these years, you're really the only one who's ever made me feel something. What about Jinnian? He pressed. Who? I asked, genuinely confused. I truly had no idea who that man was. Ji Weiken stared at me for a long moment, then pulled out his phone and immediately called his parents, his voice filled with excitement. Mom! Dad! I don't want the green card anymore. I love it here in China. I'm moving back for good. You two have been talking about wanting to come back too, haven't you? Once I settle down, I'll fly over to bring you both home. Wow. Love really does make people do crazy things. This was the great Jiu Huaiken, one half of the legendary Tsinghua twin stars, the aloof genius everyone admired from afar. Turns out, he was just a lovesick fool like everyone else. Who would have thought? Satisfied, I headed back home. And there, standing right at my front door, was Jinnian, looking as gloomy and menacing as an owl lurking in the night. He was practically radiating anger and resentment. His head was hanging low, and his entire body was trembling slightly. I walked up to him. He lifted his head slowly, his lips quivering as he met my eyes. You really got together with Ji Waiken? Yes, I admitted without hesitation. Josie, do you really not love me anymore? He whispered, his voice breaking. Just because I wanted to save Li Jiaxiao's life? Is that why you hate me this much? I'm sorry, I said, making my words crystal clear. I don't even know who you are. How could I possibly love you? Liu Jinnian closed his eyes, his voice a ragged whisper, as if he was forcing the words out of his throat. Fine. Fine. Don't you regret this? Don't you dare regret this. He finally gave up. Without another word, he turned and walked away, never looking back. A moment later, I heard a loud, explosive argument erupt from the Liu family's villa next door, accompanied by Uncle Liu's furious shouts and Aunt Wan's heartbroken sobs. Finally, the roar of a sports car engine shattered the silence. Liu Jinnian had taken Li Jiaxiao and driven away, leaving everything behind. Later that evening, I saw Liu Jinnian's post on WeChat Moments. The caption read, "How lucky am I to have you in this life?" And attached were 2 photos, one of him and Li Jiaxiao smiling together, and the other their marriage certificate. Sis, Liu Jinnian has lost his mind. He's completely insane. Liu Ziai burst into my house, her face ashen with shock. He married Li Jiaxiao, didn't he? I said calmly, unsurprised. Yes. He got into a huge fight with all of us, snatched the family's household registration book, and ran off to get married to her on the spot. It's over. It's all over. Liu Ziai wailed, on the verge of tears. She wouldn't be calling me sis anymore. I could already predict the chaos that would follow. Our 2 families' relatives would lose their minds. It was going to be a huge headache. Liu Ziai, I'm going on a trip, I announced, making a quick decision. Tell everyone not to look for me. I'm fine, plus, I have Ji Waiken now. I needed to get out of here before I got bombarded with questions and lectures. That very day, before the relatives could descend on me, I packed a small bag and fled. On the way to the train station, I texted Ji Waiken, telling him to pack his things too. He was coming with me. By the time night fell, we were sitting side by side on a high-speed train, smiling at each other. Debater Josie, Ji Waiken asked, his eyes crinkling with amusement. Where exactly are we going? Somewhere fun, I replied with a grin. We're not coming back until we've had our fill of fun, at least a month. That should be long enough to let the dust settle, right? Ji Waiken agreed to everything I said. We travelled wherever the wind took us, eating all the local delicacies, drinking, sleeping in, and just enjoying ourselves, doing whatever made us happy. And to my surprise, Ji Waiken was a complete gentleman. Even when we shared a hotel room at night, he never laid a finger on me. He just lay straight as a board on his bed, like a corpse. But I wanted to touch him. He was so handsome, who wouldn't want to? So, on the last night of our trip, as we lay in the darkness, I slowly stretched out my foot and rested it on his leg. He froze instantly, his breathing growing ragged and uneven. I cleared my throat, my voice teasing. Debater Ji Waiken, do you think my foot is cold? ... Yes. He managed to stammer out. Well then, I said, aren't you going to warm it up for me? I obey, he replied, his voice barely a whisper. And as he wrapped his hands around my foot to warm it, it wasn't just my foot that started to feel hot. When our trip finally came to an end, we returned to Beijing. Ji Waiken's parents wasted no time flying back to China. He was over the moon, rushing off to the airport to pick them up, and made a date with me for dinner the next day, so he could officially introduce me to them. I was more than happy to agree. Later, I called Liu Ziai to catch up, asking her what had happened while I was gone. Sis, you're finally back. She sighed, sounding exhausted. My brother is completely ruined. He's been moping around all day, drowning his sorrows in alcohol, and even got into gambling. No way. It's only been a month. How could he fall apart this quickly? I asked, genuinely shocked. Li Jiaxiao divorced him. She filed for divorce the very next day after they got married. It was just a formality. No one understands what was going on. Liu Ziai sounded just as confused as everyone else. We all thought she married him for his money, that she wanted to be a wealthy trophy wife. But she volunteered to get divorced without asking for a single cent in compensation. My brother was still obsessed with you the whole time. He regretted marrying her as soon as they got the certificate, so he agreed to the divorce right away. After they split up, Liu Xiao told him something that broke him completely. Now he's just a shell of a man. Lu Ziyi sighed, clearly disappointed and frustrated with her brother. Just then, there was a commotion on her end of the line, and the phone was suddenly snatched away from her. Lu Jinnian's voice came through the speaker, raw and broken with sobs. Sui? Is that you? I know I was wrong. Please come back. How could you forget me? Did you have to chase me too? I abandoned you, so you punished me by forgetting about me. Is that it? I didn't understand a word he was saying. What was he rambling about? Li Xiao told me everything. She figured it out. You failed to chase me, didn't you? He wailed, his cries growing louder and more hysterical. I'm so sorry. I'm so damn sorry. Please come back to me. Please. Lu Jinnian was crying his heart out, but I felt absolutely nothing, because I truly didn't know who he was. I'm already married to Jiu Huaiken, I told him flatly. Goodbye. I hung up the phone and turned it off for good. I was in a great mood, so I decided not to go home just yet. Instead, I wandered aimlessly around the streets. As I passed Wonder Plaza, a familiar figure caught my eye. She was dressed simply, with no makeup on her face, handing out flyers with boundless energy and enthusiasm, a bright smile on her lips. I stopped to watch her, watching her radiant face, her thin but resilient figure standing tall in the sunlight, her hair fluttering gently in the breeze, and those bright, glistening eyes of hers. She looked just like a tree growing on a cliff. This was the real cliffside tree. I ran over to her. She looked up, startled to see me, then broke into a wide grin and invited me. Want a drink? There's a coffee shop over there. I have a bottle of red wine in my bag. Where did you get the red wine? I asked, curious. From Lu Jinnian's house, she admitted with a mischievous twinkle in her eye. I couldn't just let those 7 wasted years go without getting something in return. So I swiped the most expensive bottle of red wine he had. Well done. Lead the way, I said, grinning back at her. Let's go have that drink. Half a year later, Jiu Huaiken and I got married. My family had already moved out of that neighborhood long ago. In those 6 months, Lu Jinnian had truly hit rock bottom. He drank himself into a stupor every day, gambled away all his money, neglected his work, and eventually ran his own company into the ground. His parents were so furious and heartbroken that they fell ill. In the end, they simply gave up on him, letting him spiral further into self-destruction. The next time I saw Lu Jinnian was on Christmas Eve, on a street corner downtown. He was revving his sports car engine so loudly that it made my ears ring, and a heavily made-up woman was screaming and laughing inside the car. I watched from a distance as Lu Jinnian slung an arm around the woman, stumbling out of the car like a drunkard, and spat on the sidewalk. Gone was the bright, elegant young man who had once been one of King Hua's twin stars. In his place stood a bitter, broken-down loser. Fuck. There are so many people here. Where the hell is that bar we went to last time? Lu Jinnian slurred, stumbling around as he searched for the entrance. The woman beside him giggled, her voice high and annoying. I can't remember either, baby. Where is it? Lu Jinnian suddenly froze. He turned to stare at the woman, then exploded in a fit of rage. You can't remember? How dare you forget? Don't you dare forget. The woman was terrified, shrinking back in fear and stammering out apologies. Figure it out. Fucking figure it out right now. Lu Jinnian roared, slapping her across the face. The woman yelped and quickly pointed in a random direction. I remember. It's over there. That way. Lu Jinnian looked satisfied, then draped his arm around her shoulders again, and stumbled toward the bar she'd pointed to. But halfway there he suddenly broke down, collapsing onto the sidewalk and bursting into loud, gut-wrenching sobs. Later, I ran into Li Xiao again. She wasn't handing out flyers anymore. She'd passed the civil service exam and gotten a job back in her hometown. After all, she was a graduate of King Hua University. Those 7 wasted years had left her adrift, but handing out flyers was just a temporary gig to make ends meet. With her intelligence and drive, She was always destined to make something of herself. Now that she'd secured her civil service position, she was getting ready to leave Beijing for good. Before she left, she made a special trip to see me. I noticed she was holding a bottle of red wine in her hand. I smiled at her. "Want a drink?" debated Joe Cece Chaser Joe Cece. She corrected me playfully. "This one's on me." "No need to be polite," I replied. "It's not like it's our first time drinking together." We sat and drank, chatting away happily. For the most part, it was Li Xiaoxiao doing the talking, and me listening. She'd worked incredibly hard, pushing herself to the limit to pass that civil service exam. Finally, she could cross her legs and drink red wine whenever she wanted. This was her glass of red wine, 7 years overdue. Let's raise our glasses. Cheers.